Hey folks, it's your pal Mike Shea from slyflourish.com and twitter.com/slyflourish, here with another episode of Sly Flourish's Lazy DM Prep. This is a weekly show, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, in which I go through steps from Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master while preparing for my weekly D&D game. In this case, I am running Ghosts of Saltmarsh. This show is brought to you by the backers of Sly Flourish at patreon.com. If you go to patreon.com/slyflourish, you can help support the show, and you can help make sure that all of the bandwidth and equipment and everything else that I require can help get covered. One of the things that the Patreon backers have recently backed, I'm in the process of moving servers from Sly Flourish. We'll see how that goes. It's kind of a stressful operation for a one-man show. But I've been on a server for like 15 years, and even the service provider doesn't support it anymore. So I'm in desperate need of moving over. And my site is relatively simple, but it's all homegrown. I don't use WordPress or anything like that. It's my own code. So and when it's your own code, you have to figure out how to migrate it yourself. So it shouldn't be too terribly difficult, but it's going to take some time. And in the meantime, the new servers I'm moving to are going to be more expensive. That's going to give me some more opportunity to add some interesting things to it. One of the things, for example, is I added a new feature to Sly Flourish. Oh, we'll talk about it in a sec. But right now, I forgot to mention on Twitter that we are having the show. So let me go to Twitter. And let me look for my last post. I posted an hour ago that I was going to have a show, but then I always like to post another thing saying, hey, we're live. And we are live. Let's see. Retweet with comment. We are live. Come join us and chat about D&D. There we go. Retweet. That tweet is sent. Let's see. I would love to say, so I'm running a little late today, and I would love to say it's because I'm like scrambling around, making sure everything's getting ready. The reality is I was playing Minecraft. I got addicted to playing Minecraft again. I literally just got addicted like 5 minutes ago, but I love Minecraft, and I every so often I stopped playing for a long time, and then I'm like, I should see what's going on in there. And I like loaded it up, and I'm like, oh my God, I need to build a house. And got to get the fire going before the, zombies show up. So I had to do that. That means I'm late for my own show. Hello, everybody. Let's see. Von Corellon is here. He's Not Your Problem is here. Rex Verdi is here. I need to go to my creator dashboard. That looks good. And I need to pop out my chat and stick that over here. And we will... let's see, go back here. I just want to make sure the video is good. The video looks good. Sorry, I'm moving like 50 windows around, hoping I'm not screwing anything up for you guys. I think everything looks good. There. Now we can relax. Have some coffee. If you are here in the chat, come and say hello. If you haven't said hello, if you've said hello, hello. Yeah, I'm at, Minecraft, man. I started playing. I don't know. I got late to Minecraft because I'm old. But I started playing with some friends, and I have one of my best friends is a huge Minecraft nerd. He loves Minecraft. He and I have known each other 42 years now. We've been friends, and never played D&D together, but he knows about my love of D&D. And anyway, yeah, he plays with his kids, and always tells me about the new stuff that's going on in Minecraft. And then I load it up and get playing and really enjoy it. Minecraft is a really great game. It's too bad it's made by a complete catastrophe of a human being. But the game itself is awesome. Which is a really interesting problem. Probably a problem outside the scope of this show. What do you do when monsters make great art? What do you do with the art? Like, you should always condemn the monster. There's no doubt about that. You never cover up monsters, even because they make good art. But what do you do with the art? And that's a good question. Like, Annie Hall won ungodly amounts of like accolades and Academy Awards and everything, and it was made by a monster. L.A. Confidential is a fantastic movie and stars a monster. Thriller is the best music video of all time and was made by a monster, which is funny because he's a monster in the video, but he's a real monster. He was a real monster in life. What do you do with that? I don't know what to do with it. I don't know. Do you throw it away? Do you throw the art away too? I mean, that seems a bit much, but on the other hand, I don't know. Tough. Anyway, whatever. That's not a D&D problem. But I think that sometimes it bleeds into D&D because D&D is very old and the times were different, which is no excuse for the behavior of D&D. But what do we keep and what do we throw away? And how do we treat new material that certainly doesn't fit the way we look at the world today, the way we should look at the world today, compared to how we looked at it 40 years ago? I don't know how we got into Minecraft. Oh yeah, because Notch is a monster. You don't have to send me any at replies. But boy, Minecraft is a good game. Let's see. Ghost of Saltmarsh. So yeah, last week, let's talk about Ghost of Saltmarsh game. So last week, they had just received the quests from Queen Othacant. We are in chapter 3, which is Danger at Dunwater, the second adventure in the second adventure in Ghost of Saltmarsh. And in this adventure, the characters go to the lizard folk lair, and they hopefully don't murder everybody. They hopefully don't murder everybody. And then they receive a bunch of quests from Queen Othacant, who's head of the lizard folk. And my hair's all kinds of goofy today. So our group got those quests. They knew that they had to go kill Thousand Teeth, and they knew that they had to go deal with the bullywugs. And they did both. And I set up a really fun mixed media Dwarven Forge area for the bullywugs, and I really enjoyed that because it was like the bullywugs are pretty weak. Like the characters are 4th level, I think that's right. The third or fourth level, and so they're pretty powerful compared to bullywugs, who are like CR 1/4. But if you throw a bunch of lizards, if you have a lot of bullywugs, like a dozen, you throw a bunch of bullywugs, and you put some giant lizards in there and some of the bigger bullywugs, you can have a real situation. But the bullywugs are just kind of running around and they're sort of dueling, which is mostly chasing each other around and farting at one another. And the characters get to kind of sneak in and deal with the situation. And this is a style of D&D I really enjoy. It's one that I'm running a lot these days in Ghost of Saltmarsh. I talked about it in the first adventure, Sinister Secrets of Saltmarsh, that you set up situations like you need to get on the boat and you need to acquire this information about where they're smuggling the weapons to, and you decide how. And now the character gets to decide, are we going to sneak? Are we going to blow things up? What are we going to do? And in many cases, it's like, well, let's fly in and nuke them from orbit, right? And that was kind of the case with the bullywugs too. There was a little bit of sneaking around. There was a fun bullywug who was peeing against a wall, and they took care of that guy, and then that sort of set off a chain of events. And next thing you know, they're fighting bullywugs. But they had the upper hand. They sort of broke the groups up. A lot of the bullywugs ran away because they're really cowards. So it was a really fun fight. It was hard because some of the bullywugs, there were some bigger bullywugs that were trouble. And the lizards were a little bit of trouble, but it was not overly difficult. And the characters, the players, and I all had kind of a good time narrating this event, which I think is such a great way to run D&D. Like, it's so much nicer than sort of the pre-planned round by round, how is the encounter going to go sort of situation. To me, it's a lot more interesting to see, to put a situation in place of the characters and watch the players navigate that situation, and then work with them and see interesting things going on. I just love that style. And it's different. I mean, I kind of preach this over and over again, but that's different than, I think, the way we had traditionally looked at it. If you think about 3rd edition, where I think 3rd edition was the first time that they started designing encounter. When you bought a published adventure, they laid the encounter out. They showed like individually, where are the enemies going to be, and here's their stat blocks for them, and here's like, tactics that they're going to follow through. And it made a lot of sense. Like, this isn't a bad approach. And 4th edition grabbed that and did that completely. I can actually pull up an example. Let's see. Let's go to, because there is a 4th edition adventure that's free and that I think you can download. And the name of it is, Keep of the Shadowfall. And look for the one from Wizards. There it is. Oh, that doesn't look right. Keep of the Shadowfall. Yeah, here we go. Is it showing up in my chart? Yes. So Keep of the Shadowfell was the first major 4th edition D&D adventure. And if you look at it, it has like an encounter, right? And it's got an encounter level and a setup and the stat blocks and the read aloud text and then maps. And you can see like the maps got the specific locations and there's tactics. how they allow their people to do their stuff, and there's features of the area. It's very, this is their tactical spread. This was a 2-page spread. So you sort of laid this out in front of you. And I remember, I think it was Dave Noonan who wrote about this back in early 2000s, the design of this encounter format, and, handling scenes between combat. Isn't this an interesting heading? If you think about the design of 4th edition of handling scenes between combat, that kind of tells me you're going from combat to combat, and then you got to move things along. Very first heading, right? Combat was the real drive of 4th edition. And I loved 4th edition. I played like crazy. Sly Flourish is a name of a power from 4th edition. I loved 4th edition. I played a 1 to 30 campaign. I played numerous 1 to 10 campaigns after that. Von Coralon says, I have the original 4th edition from when it came out. Yeah, I've got the books sitting over there. I have a whole stack of 4th edition books sitting right on my shelf right over there. And I reference them regularly. There's a lot of interesting things. What's interesting about this is I bet there's a lot of people who still prefer this format, right? Who want this sort of, when you have a battle, put it out like this. Give me the stat blocks right there. Describe help me out, right? This makes very good sense, right? This is not the wrong way to go. It's not, you don't look at it and go, wow, what horrible stuff, right? This is the whole thing about Shadowfall. Nice art. Look, they had pretty good art. They had a lot of budget back then. Encounter, A1, Kobold Ambush, setup, having visited Winterhaven. And you think about it, and it's there's these hard breaks, right? In the narration. Outside the Kobold lair, inside. He's not your problem, says, I would appreciate some tactical advice in 5e. It's the one thing I struggle with as a DM. There are so many things I'm juggling that monster tactics can go out the window. Right. That is not, like I said, it feels like I bet you if they spent more time doing this kind of thing, people would like it. I will argue, however, and I'm bringing this up for a reason, that I don't think, so this does not fit 5th edition's current style. Right? If you think about the design of 5th edition, and Mike Merles has mentioned this, that in one of the DM deep dives that I did, he mentioned that 5th edition definitely, I'm my words, right? But it opens the aperture, and it takes a much more high level story focused look rather than a room by room tactical look at the game. And that's just its style, right? That's its design. For a second, I thought Irontooth's leg was missing. Did anybody remember Irontooth? This dude killed more characters than any monster in 4th edition. He killed so many PCs. He was a bit overpowered for first level characters, even in 4th edition first level characters who were 3rd level characters normally. Where is his thing? Irontooth, there he is. Level 3 elite brute, right? And he just would swing axes. Plus 8 to hit, 1d8 plus 4 damage. Dual axes make basic attack against 2 adjacent creatures. Could shift in between. When bloody deals an extra 1d10 damage on attacks. Crazy. The PvP Penny Arcade podcast. Yeah, he just ate people. Irontooth was a freaking monster. He was really, really hard. So, so RPGs have usually stylistic design choices that they make that are different from one another. If you read Dungeon World and Fate and Numenera and 13th Age, you will see that each of them have sort of things that they focus on and areas that they, the game puts attention on, and areas that they do not. And 5th edition, as much as it was trying to kind of grasp the 35-year, 40-year legacy of D&D and trying to make sure that it was hanging on to that, it still has design ideas that are opinionated, that it has, and certainly its drive over time. If you look at the way the people at Wizards of the Coast run it and the sorts of things that they promote and the sort of things that are getting a lot of attention, I would say that there's even more of a design ideal after it has been released than that you would find in the books. And some of those design ideals are things that not everybody likes. And one of them is that sort of stepping back from from a tactical combat thing. And He's Not Your Problem says he'd appreciate if it had more about that. And that's true. And I think people would want it. I bet you. Yeah, the Monster Knows, right? So the Monster Knows is a this came up in the chat, is a website, very popular, relatively recent, newer, right? Where they talked about, this is a whole website. I forget the guy that runs this. I've talked to him on Twitter, and he focuses on what the tactics are for any given monster. He picks a bunch of different monsters and then describes like what kind of things they can do. And I definitely think there are monsters that benefit from this. I think boss monsters in particular are worth paying extra attention to. I was talking to my wife today. So I was listening to Chris Perkins, and I forget the other fellow's name, the other dude who is the designer or editor that has recently put together the new Tyranny of Dragons book. Tyranny of Dragons. Yeah, so this is the new Tyranny of Dragons book. Pop-ups. October 22nd. That's pretty soon. I got to reserve this. So the new Tyranny of Dragons book combines Hoard of the Dragon Queen and Rise of Tiamat into one book. So this is like a level 1 to 16 mega adventure, $50. It's on DM's Guild and D&D Beyond. What is? And have you seen they released a charity supplement? He plays a look at it. Yes, and I have a player who loves them, the fish people. Yeah, I'll get to that. So Tyranny of Dragons is a combination of both Hoard of the Dragon Queen and Rise of Tiamat into one adventure, one big book. And they edited it and they kind of fixed up a bunch of things that I'm really interested to look at, like how they did the beginning again. A reworked opening chapter and a bunch of errata. I'm really interested in seeing what the differences are between this one and the original one, because the original one is still like on Sly Flourish. It's one of the top hits of the articles that I put out. People still go back and read a lot of advice articles about running Hoard of the Dragon Queen. So I believe that is likely, to me, an indicator that adventure is still getting a lot of play. So the fact that they're like, okay, we're going to make a new version of that is really great. But I was talking to my wife about Tiamat, and I was saying, like, my home group fought Tiamat twice, and I ran Tiamat once as like a one-shot sort of thing. And, I was like, man, she would have been a lot harder if I played her, if I knew what I was doing, because one of the tricks with Tiamat, which makes her really lethal, and it's all tactics. It doesn't change her stat block at all. So Tiamat CR30, so she should kill pretty much everybody, right? But one of the tricks that she has is, so she's got legendary actions that include breath weapons. That's a big deal. Her green breath weapon is basically useless. It's a great cone, and if they don't have Hero's Feast on, it'll work really well. But any good group that's going to face Tiamat probably has Hero's Feast. Yeah, Tiamat has a part to play in Ghost of Avernus, in Descent into Avernus as well, which I think is really cool. A lot of the adventures can tie back to Hoard of the Dragon Queen. It's really fun for your Forgotten Realms adventures to be able to kind of tie connections to. I tied Storm King's Thunder, Hoard of the Dragon Queen. Those are two big ones where I tied them very heavily to the events that took place in Tyranny of Dragons. Anyway, so the tactic is her red head does 91 points of damage. Her white head does 72 points of damage, which I think is her least. No, black is lower. 67 on that one. And so she has an 88 blue. So if you can get people in a 10-foot wide line, the blue dragon head with the lightning is really good. But one tactic you can use is that she holds her breath weapons for the last 2 rounds before she goes. And then 2 rounds before she goes, as one legendary action, she hits them with one huge breath weapon. And it's like 90, it's a bunch of damage. And then somebody goes, and then she hits them again with another breath weapon in a cone, trying to hit as many people as she can. And in between, and 1 round before that, so the third, she still has 1 extra one. She can make a bite attack against somebody, right? And the bite attack is for 46 points of damage if she hits. So she can hit people for like 46 plus 72 plus 91, damage, wham, wham, wham. And then tries to knock down as many people as she can, right? Then it's her turn. And on her turn, she can make, where is it? 3 attacks, 2 claws and a bite, or 2 claws and tail. She then, I think tail knocks down. No, tail doesn't even knock down. That's weak. So then she can slam people with claws and a bite, trying to knock down as many people as she can to 0. Now, of course, like a good mass healing word or anything else will get everybody back up. But then as a bonus action, and this is the trick that I didn't know, as a bonus action, she can cast Divine Word 3 times a day. Divine Word, and you're like, yeah, but she already used her actions. Divine Word is a bonus action. So she does this after she's just 72 plus 91 plus 46 for a bite, plus a tail for like 31, plus a bunch of claws. She's throwing out hundreds of points of damage. And then look at it. Anybody with 20 hit points or fewer, which is a lot of people, get killed instantly. Bang, they're dead. And now, especially if you do it to like clerics or anybody that can do the one action resurrection, if you can get them down and kill them, it's game over for everybody else. They're not going to be able to take her out. So that's a tactic, right? That she should hold her legendary actions until it's close to her turn. She should try to spread her damage out as wide as possible and take down as many people, particularly the cleric. And if she can get them down and then knock them around with her claws and her tail attack, then I just knocked my thing over mimicking claw attacks. Then she can kill them all, or she can kill a lot of characters all at once. And she can do that 3 rounds in a row, right? Bang, 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 breathe. Boom, dead. Bang, 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 breathe, boom, dead. So that's a tactic, and it would have helped. So the question is, do you want to do that? Is that fun, right? Like, do you really want to wipe out your characters? You know, I kind of think it worked out the way it worked, because I think the other way, if you start killing everybody, they're gonna get wiped out. So, you know, and is that really what you want at the end of a 16 level D&D game? So maybe don't do that. You know, focus on the breath weapons. You know, throw some other guys in the room to throw a lot of damage around. I had like cult wizards that were hurling damage around on top of Tiamat when they fought her, and they beat her, and they remember beating her. In fact, one of the guys remembers very clearly getting a Vorpal strike where he cut the red head off with a Vorpal sword, which I thought was really awesome. I have a DM that lets a player wield a 50-pound anvil as a thrown melee weapon that deals 1d20 damage, but basically I keep having the thought that it'd be very funny to see that against Tiamat. That's interesting. 1d20. I don't think there's any weapon that does a 1d20. That's a really funny swing. So tactics. Yeah, so the question is like, I think there is a desire for tactics, but I also equally think that is kind of not the design of 5th edition. And I think that's an arguable point, and there's probably people that argue against that with me, and they might not be. Let's look at that picture. That picture is awesome. Look at that. Oh, so great. Look at the tiny wizard. She's coming out of the well. I love Tiamat. I got Tiamat out of my shirt today. That the tactics are not... let's get that scroll bar out of there. The tactics are not the main point of 5th edition. The story is the point. So instead of tactics, I think setting up the situation to say, these are what the bad guys are doing, and then let the characters sort of interact with however that's set up, and then go forward. You know, like think about what the characters would do. So what do bullywugs do? Sometimes they run. Sometimes their tactics are not, you know, like how to get flanking on each other. And there's some tactics, like pack tactics, where wolves will gang up on stuff. So I ran a bunch of wolves yesterday in a game I was running, and they split up into packs of 2. So each pair of wolves would go and attack one person. And that's so they can maximize their the pack tactics that they have. Like there's subtle stuff. And it's funny because a lot of people equally feel that D&D should have more of a tactical focus in its descriptions, and also monsters should be more complicated. And I think that those are counter to one another. Like simple monsters make it easier to not worry so much about tactics. So anyway, an interesting thought. And I'm eager to see Tyranny of Dragons, just because I think it is a popular adventure. I'm probably not going to run it again, but I'll certainly buy it again just because I like having it. And then I'll do with the old versions of it. So my Ghost of Saltmarsh game, getting back to my game, because I actually have to get notes together today, although it's not going to be hard. In my game today, the characters, they defeated the Bullywugs and got the crown, and then they faced Thousand Teeth, and that was really hard, but they beat Thousand Teeth and are bringing him back as well. So they are returning to to the Dunwater lizard folk area. At which point the queen will say, like, this is, you know, you have done a lot of good service for us. I think that we are open to negotiation. Spend one more night with us, and then tomorrow we will help you set off for your return. And then during the night, a Malenti appearing as an elven ambassador. A Malenti is a Sahuagin that looks like a sea elf. It's in the lore. Let's go to. Yeah, when we think about tactics and we think about the description of tactics, you know, this is one where, like, instead of tactics, they offer up lore. Again, kind of, if you look at, you know, think about this is really interesting. I never really thought about this before. But if you look at the monster manual and how it's written, they don't have a tactics section. They don't talk about how these guys fight. There might be a little bit about it, but generally speaking, it's about their story. What is the story that they have? And in here, this elven enmity, they hate elves, they hate sea elves in particular. And there are sea elves that are mutants that appear. Sorry, there are Sahuagin that are mutants that appear as sea elves, known as Malenti. And I tell you, my other group where I ran the Malenti, they remember Malenti now. They worry about that. So it's interesting that there's a lack of tactical description in how the Sahuagin fight. But much more about the fact that they worship the shark god Sokola, and that you know, and about the you know, that they're known as devils of the deep and all of that. There's a lot of lore here that you can sort of use that's different than kind of worrying about the tactics, and that's because, in my opinion, 5th edition's design. I don't think it's just my opinion. Many people think this, and I think the designers have said it. 5th edition definitely shifts the needle towards the story focus of D&D, away from the tactical combat focus of D&D. And some people don't like that, and that's okay. I was a big tactical gamer. I was a big tactical fighter too, but I'm enjoying the story a lot more, worrying less about how monsters fight. Another thing is, if you feel like your tactics are waning, if you feel like the characters are having too easy a time, just put more monsters in. It's easy. You know, if you add 1 or 2 more monsters in your battles, you can make up for the fact that their tactics suck. That's a little trick. So they return to the promontory. During the night, the Malenti and the Sahuagin attack. They tried to kill... assuming she's still alive. She rewards them with the Helm of Water Breathing that they acquired from the Bullywugs. So... return to Saltmarsh. Legendary Action Official says there's a great blog. Yeah, if you scroll up, we were just talking about that. John is 18 said the monster knows, and yeah, I'm going to add that to my notes because it is a good site. And I think the monster knows. I think he's writing a book. I'm pretty sure there's a book coming out about the monsters. The monsters know what they're doing. Yeah, and I think that's a fine way to go. I guess, you know, my philosophy is, personally, I worry less. I try to keep some really simple rules of thumb in my head when it comes to combat, and a couple of dirty tricks. And you say it's on Amazon? Monsters know what they're doing. Huh, customer reviewed this, also reviewed Return to the... Ooh, hardcover. Cool. When is this supposed to come out? October 29th. Pretty soon. Cool. Probably do really well. I like that it's stuck there right next to Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master. I also wonder, it's like, well, we know that you want to see your own book a lot, so we're going to keep putting your own book in front of you. So rather than worry too much about monster tactics, I keep a couple of dirty tricks in my head. One is that you can always add more monsters to make things more difficult for the characters if you really want to make it harder. Two is you can monkey around with the monster's hit points, either up or down, so you can lower their hit points if things are getting really boring, or you can increase them if things are getting a little too easy. And last, you can work on their damage, increase their damage, or give them some sort of quick environmental effect. I had a battle against a helmed horror, I think it was. And it was a single helmed horror against like level 4 characters. And the helmed horror, I think, is challenge 4. But it's got AC 20, which is really high. And it had spell immunity and magic resistance. They couldn't nail stuff. But if you look at its damage is pretty weak. It's, 8 points of damage, which is really low. Genre is fire giants that do max damage are no joke. I think you're quoting that right from my article where I talked about this. And what I did is I had to drop its shield and then slice its hand with fire, and then the blade burned in flame, now doing an additional D6, like another 3 points of damage. So now it's doing 11 damage a hit instead of 8, or 9. It was doing 12 instead of 9. And so it did more damage, but it took some damage when it did it, and its AC went down at the same time. And that made it suddenly went from being a big tanky tank to a damage dealer, and the players enjoyed the increase in threat. They got scared, but they also were able to beat it down faster, so that worked out well. And I think little dirty tricks like that, increase damage, find a reason to increase damage or lower hit points, stuff like that, are real. Add or subtract monsters, increase or decrease hit points, increase or decrease damage are three they're like little dials that you have that you can tweak during the game. You can be like, ooh, what can this guy do? Well, he's gonna, he pours something, he drinks a potion, and now he's throwing with fire giant strength. That all works. I did. I'm trying to remember if I wrote an article about this. The case for static monster damage, I wrote about this, and I think I talked about tuning monster damage on the fly, right? It's good. Yeah, right. Fire giant hits for 27 damage seems scary, but a fire damage maxing its damage out for 43 damage a hit, that's really scary. So yeah, it's a tweaking monster damage, using average damage and then tweaking it up and down as you want to change the threat, is a nice trick. So there are tactics like moving around and how they get lined up and how they use what they've got. And then there's just little dirty tricks that you can do where you don't have to worry too much about tactics, and you're still going to be able to bring the threat up and down, and instead kind of focus on the story that's taking place. So I try to put my mind more on the story, less on the tactics, but keep these little dials so that I can sort of change how battles go. And that's heresy to a lot of DMs. A lot of DMs feel that that's just outright cheating. Hang on, I gotta take a drink. Could help make combat feel like it has a hidden timer. Yeah, one of the 4th edition tricks was a thing called Bloodied. Bloody condition was essentially when monsters hit half their health, things happened. And dragons, for example, could get an immediate breath weapon when they did it. And it was a cool trick, and they took it away. And it's a little bit of a bummer. I know Matt Colville and stuff have talked about it would have been really nice if they kept that in there. So let me show off another little thing. I'm running all over the place today. But when I talked about, at the beginning of the show, I mentioned that the backers at Patreon, the supporters of Sly Flourish, are going to help pay for, they don't know this, but the money that they are donating to the site and to the Sly Flourish Empire is going to help pay for a transition to a new server. And one of the things that I can do, which I tested out, it was really dirty how I tested it out, was a couple new features. And one is that every article now at the bottom has a set of related articles. So if you go to, this is the case for static monster damage, and you want to learn about other things, there's calculating monster damage, lazy approach to stronger counters, 3 tips for preparing for the Monster Manual 3, a 4th edition book, mob damage calculator, D&D's nastier specials, 3 powers to speed up combat, 4E dice damage calculator, DM's deep dive, monster design. So this related articles section, every article has it. So if you go to any article, let's grab an old one. Let's grab, for example, Letting Go of Defined Encounters, right? We're written back in 2017. This is an article I link to a lot, right? And if you go down, this is all about how to not worry. It's exactly on the topic we're talking about of don't worry so much about whether or not you're going to be running a battle or a exploration scene or roleplay scene, and instead build situations and let characters navigate those situations. So I talk about this here. I talk about adventure. Anyway, at the bottom is related articles, and it has building for the three pillars, building a great D&D character, DM tips from the D&D Open, things to do while traveling, new Dungeon Master's design for encounters, 2 Thugs in the Woods, story focus of D&D, all these. And these are all related. And this is all generated using space age artificial intelligence stuff, kind of. It's, whenever anybody talks about that, they're mostly full of BS. But it is using little bits of machine learning to read all of the articles and figure out which articles are related to other articles based on the words that they have in them. So it does an approach known as the bag of words. The more technical term for it is TF-IDF, or term frequency inverse document frequency, which is a fancy mathematical way of saying what words appear in this article, but don't tend to appear in all articles. So D&D, for example, is not one of the techniques because they all talk about D&D, but some of them are using sets of words in this article that are similar to the other documents that are here in this related articles. So this is dynamically generated. And when I add a new article, it recalculates it for all of the articles. So that means old articles will have links to new articles. Bag of words sounds better, yes, than TF-IDF. Yeah. It is able to figure out. So even old articles will have links to newer articles. Because the whole thing is recalculated every time. The other trick is that it has this article keywords. These are words that tend to appear in this article that tend not to appear in other articles. Same technique, known as, again, TF-IDF this is not a plugin. So WordPress has a plugin that does something like this. I was talking to James Intercasso about this, and he says that his website uses this, but it was a plugin for WordPress. I hand wrote all my blog code. So the code that generates this site is all Python. And I have been playing around with a lot of AI Python stuff for a couple of years and was like, how come I'm not using this on the site? Well, one reason is because my old server that I run this on can't use the libraries that do this sort of thing. But my new site will. So what it's a really stupid trick. I'm actually generating these related article lists and the keyword lists on my home computer and then putting that in a big database and then moving the database up to my server, and then it's able to read the database and build the thing. But it now means that it takes like an extra 5 minutes for me to write an article every week because I have to take the article I wrote, put it in a directory, run another script, then copy over the database to the new site, and then rerun the site, rebuild the site, and then it rebuilds this whole thing. And if anything goes wrong, then the whole site crashes. The site doesn't crash. Actually, the site stays up, but my ability to put a new article crashes. The new server will do this automatically. So like every time I add a new article, it'll do the whole calculation and figure out which articles are related to it and put them there. It'll also figure out what keywords. So you can say like, what articles also mention Bryn Shander? And the answer is not many, because Bryn Shander is pretty select. The keywords are probably not quite as useful. Let's look. 2 Thugs in the Woods was the article I wrote recently, right? And it's a keywords: character try, boss battle, style play, player choose, thug, woods, situation, bandit, scout. So not a lot in here, right? These keywords are not always that useful. The related articles tends to be more useful. If I look at the new player's guide to, running encounters, thoughts on Arcana encounter building, choose monsters based on the story. These are usually when I've read these make a lot of sense. The only issue I have with them is that they will often throw 4th edition articles into 5th edition stuff. And part of me is like, well, maybe people want to see that. But I'm also worried that people who have no idea what 4th edition is, because there's so many more people playing D&D now, I might actually remove the 4th edition articles from that. I might limit this to just articles that were written over the past 5 years, so that it's mostly focused on the last 5 years rather than all of them. I may do that. I got to play with it more. But this one works. Challenge rating, character level, monster challenge, hit points, encounter, goblin, difficulty scene, war, deadly situation, blah, 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 blah. So the keyword's not quite as useful. Anyway, neat little feature. And that I just want to say to those of you who support on Patreon, thank you for that, because you're helping me move to the new servers where I can do that and do it automatically. This one other trick I do, and I do this when there's sets of articles that are clearly tied together, like all of the Ghost of Saltmarsh articles or all of the Storm King's Thunder articles, I will go back to the article and add my own, like, these are come from a full list of articles. So like the new Dungeon Master's Guide for Beginning Encounters came from a 6-article series that I wrote for D&D Beyond, and all of them are here. And if you look, all of them are linked together. I added that manually because I know that those are connected. So then the weird thing is it has it up here, and then it also has the same list down here. Except I think the list down here, right, these are not all the D&D Beyond ones, right? This is a different set. So it's sort of like this weird network of how to navigate it. Anyway, I don't know what it'll do for the site. Hopefully it helps people find articles that are related to what they're reading. And so I want to show that off. Okay, enough of that. I got 18 minutes left and I have a game to prepare for. So we're going to start off with, so let's talk about the characters. Let's start with step 1. 18 minutes. 18 minutes we should be able to prep for our D&D game. I have 6 characters. I think 2 of them are out today, and I forget who. I should remember that. Let's see. Make sure I'm not looking at my email on Twitch. Here we go. So Jerry is going to be there. Juliet may not be there. Jay is not there. Brian is there. So Juliet's a maybe. Brian will be. I think Joe will be. Jay will not be. Pat will be. Okay. So Dragon here does. I usually do this prep right after the last game. So there's one. Again, I don't try to tell people what to do, and I don't know that this works for everybody. I find that if I do it too early, I forget, and then when I'm about to run the game, I don't remember. Where I'm literally running this. Like my game is in, an hour and 18 minutes. I start my game at noon, and I have to pack all my stuff up and get ready to go. So I'm doing it really right before the game. Doing it 18 minutes before a game is reaching mad lad levels. Not quite 18 minutes, an hour and 18 minutes. But that hour is me packing up my stuff, having a little bit of lunch, and then driving over there. So really, I'm not doing anything else other than prepping 18 minutes before the game, which is more than enough for me. I'll tell you one trick. One trick for this is when I'm running a series, when I'm running like Ghosts of Saltmarsh, and particularly since I've already run it before with another group, it's a lot easier to prep. I know what's going on. But I do have some problems with this one, and I talked about them last time, which is when they left Saltmarsh, they left a vampire running around the city. So what is going on with that? And I think that one of the secrets is that Metha, who they saved, is now actually a vampire spawn that works for Zolek. Oh, crap. Sorry. I should switch screens. Sublime. There we go. So here are the characters. Mac, Goliath Grave Cleric, Smuggler from Monmerg, Worshipper of Weejas, and gave his blood to... one little trick is he gave his blood to Zolek. Bleth, human paladin of Procran, who may or may not be there. Ink Black Whale ate her parents, threw herself off. She is very laser focused. She went from let's save Zolek to not. And I think so when I think about that, this is the value of going through the characters. So one of the secrets is that Zolek, there is a cult in the styes. Tied to the Black Death. Is it known as the Black Death? What is it called? I don't remember what they called. We have an evil vampire roaming around in the wild because the main group let them go. You have it correct. That is what happened. They let it go with a purpose, which is that it's a lawful evil vampire. And he said, look, I'll help you guys out. He's going to hunt outside the town. What the hell am I doing? He will go after bad people. Zolek and Kaladek are friends. They're besties. This is a level 12 Beth problem. Yeah, exactly right. Like, Beth is like, I gotta do this, but not right now. So now the countryside are looking for a vampire slayer. Maybe. Make him a respectable vampire. They helped. Let him go. He'll offer to help them in time of need. It always interests me whenever a bad guy is giving a main group an offer. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing. Is I'm trying to make it so like he's, so you don't want to do it too much. And his thought is like, this group is trouble, but I don't think he wants the problem. He's like, look, last time I was a real dick and I did some bad stuff and I ended up getting thrown in a cell for like 1,000 years. And I think Zolek has 3 coffins. He has 3 places he can return to. What else? Oh, so the other thing. Okay, so besides all the Zolek stuff, is I also want to. So that I gotta to put the hook in for the next adventure, which is Salvage Operation. Let's go here. Let's go to Dunwater. Salvage Operation. This is the next adventure. It's a really good one. I really like it. But one of the tricks is like so Salvage Operation is all about going out to a derelict ship and recovering a old box. And there's something in the box. What's in the box? And one of the things I'm going to change is instead of all the spider monsters and the Loth connection is I'm going to make it a Tharzadun / Chain God connection, because that ties it into this whole idea that Tharzadun. And it'll be the first time that they actually get attacked by the Bleth's horrendous monster, the tentacle beast. Listen, you group of walking blood balloons, take this bag of potions and some gold for my last rich fat ass victim. I don't know that will work particularly well. They need to know that innocent people aren't dying because of their actions. That's what they're worried about. And he's like, look, if you went out and started killing bandits and taking care of malcontents and thieves and smugglers and stuff, you wouldn't be worried about it. So why are you worried that I do it? Right? Don't worry about how I get it. And in the meantime, you want a job? I've got a job. Like, I can make people forget terrible problems. Maybe you can help PTSD folks with their problems, right? It's like, you had this issue, something terrible happened. I can help you either figure it out and help remove it so that you can get over it using Charm Person. You just have to come back once a day. So what? Yeah, I don't know if I want to do that one. That's a little bit weird. So in my other game, okay, so where we are now, I can put the same thing. I can put the same thing in the box that I did in my other game. So in my other game, the material in the box was actually notes that Ida Oland had actually been selling off sailors from Saltmarsh as slaves to the pirates in order to keep the pirates out of Saltmarsh. And I think I could do the same thing. The nice thing about having a box with stuff in it is you can put anything in it that helps move the story forward. So I think I'll start with that. And then that would mean that Anders Solmar. So the original approach was Anders Solmar hears from his contact, who is the uncle, who's not really his uncle, is his butler, that there is incriminating evidence about members of the council in a chest aboard the Emperor of the Waves. And Anders doesn't know who it is. So it's really interesting. When you have a vampire with charmed person on your side, plots become a lot harder to keep. And I have a feeling that, let's see. We're going to hammer out a whole bunch of secrets real quick. So... these are all a bunch of Scarlet Brotherhood secrets. The Scarlet Brotherhood will kidnap the Sage, the Child, and the Jester. One side of the box contained a god's finger, but the box had a seal that prevented the god from directly manipulating with the area next to the box. When my group were trying to open it while running away from the bad guys, the finger was essentially fueled with energy of debuff friendliness and buff enemies. I think your world of Greyhawk is slightly different from mine, which is actually normal. My Greyhawk is normal, you mean? Or your Greyhawk is normal and mine is different than yours? I'm stealing some of my Scarlet Brotherhood. Different Greyhawks being normal. Oh yeah, I guess that's how Greyhawk is supposed to run. I tell you, I find a relative lack of Greyhawk material that doesn't help me. I prefer the Forgotten Realms, and because I know it, right? I know the realms, and I know that there's history there, and there's always plenty of room for me to build what I want. Did your lawful evil vampire tell the main group his rules? What would his rules be? I think he'll work on them. Like, we need to have rules, right? And his only rule is like a fella's got to eat, right? Dude's got to eat, and I'm not eating rats. A lot of people have the problem that the Forgotten Realms is too detailed. I don't. I always feel like I've got room to run in it, and I like the ability to kind of search quickly and find stuff online and everything like that meant that I'm usually able to grab a lot. I mean, obviously, I've run 6 or 7 campaigns now in Forgotten Realms, something like that. I don't know, a lot of Forgotten Realms campaigns. And I've always found that me being able to go and grab lore and turn it into little secrets and little bits of stuff that the characters find as they explore has been a fun way to go. I've never, I think some people like big open fields where they make up a lot of stuff. I run so many games, it's a lot easier. I find it a lot easier when there's a lot of material that I can already steal from. I recently ran Shadow of the Demon Lord, Rob Schwab's RPG, and he has tons of material that he's put out for that game. Lots and lots and lots of lore. And being able for me to fall back on that lore was really helpful. Like, it meant that every week I could write an interesting adventure in not a lot of time, and I had a lot of stuff to fall back on. But like an example is when I look at the marsh, the Hool Marshes, which is where the promontory of the lizard folk were, I was like, well, who was here in this swamp before? Like, the Mirror Dead Men has like 40 years of history, right? But the Hool Marshes, I couldn't find hardly anything. And so I had to dig up like the one piece of historical lore in Greyhawk I could find. So yeah, I found that less material was harder for me than having more material, which is just interesting. That being said, I'm still having a good time running a Greyhawk. I'm happy to take the vacation from Forgotten Realms. So it ain't a problem. I'll probably be jumping to Eberron with my Wednesday group. Sunday group, I don't know. I'm hoping to do Descent into Avernus with my Sunday group. I'm hoping that they'll let me do that. That looks like a real big fun one. The first chapter of Descent into Avernus seems very OP. OP as in it gives you too much gear, like it's a Monty Hall, or OP as in like it's going to kick the crap out of characters. If it's going to kick the crap out of characters, I think getting to level 2 quickly will help. I like the new cultists. The Dead 3 cultists in there are really cool looking. Yeah, gnome or dwarf, hard to say. In the dark, and could be doing something. I find it too railroady. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I read it and I thought it would be a fun thing to run. I think I've got enough secrets, and I've got 1 minute left. So I've got my NPCs. I'm not going to worry about monsters or treasure because they just got a bunch of treasure or after game notes. So really, this is everything. Is it enough? Do I feel good? Yeah, I feel good about it. It's gonna be weird. The return to Saltmarsh, and I think visiting. Let's see. I think one other quick secret is that what's his name? Old Ivan. Yeah, I think leveling up, getting characters to 2 is a real important thing in just about any adventure that we run. Yesterday I started a new Margreve, Tales of the Old Margreve, which is a Midgard sort of set of adventures set in this ancient forest, and I started that for a irregular monthly group that I run, and I started them at level 2 because I was like, I'm not gonna make them level up in the middle of the game, and level 1 is just such a drag. It's so easy to get knocked down by stuff, and like level 2, even as a DM, I am a lot less worried when I start characters off at level 2. I haven't taken a look at the Baldur's Gate Gazetteer. I'm wondering how close it is to the original Baldur's Gate Gazetteer that was included with that Baldur's Gate adventure that came out a few years ago. So I don't know. It is 11 o'clock. I know it's a slightly shorter episode because I started a little late. What's our time at now? I don't even know. How long have we been going? 59 minutes. Okay, so we're just about an hour. So I want to thank everybody for coming. Thank you for letting me talk about all matters of strange topics today. And I think it's going to be a fun game. And next week we will talk about the character's return to Saltmarsh and what happens and how things move forward as I try to steer them towards the Emperor of the Waves. Thank you all for coming. Thanks again for your support. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you for watching there. And thanks to everybody in chat for the wonderful conversation that we have every week. I always appreciate it. And have fun and get out there and play some D&D.